Hello everybody, this is Adrian for WapCar.my and I'm all about the details. On my right is the undisputed king of Malaysian highway, the Perodua Myvi, and on my left is what netizens are calling the new king of highway, the Perodua Ativa. So in today's video, I'm going to do a comparison between these two cars and see which is the true king. Download the official WapCar app on the Apple App Store and Google Play Store now. Many people can't help comparing the Ativa with the Myvi because the Ativa really is a jacked up Myvi. They're both very similar in terms of dimensions, except the Ativa is much taller compared to the Myvi. And both cars have the kind of similar target audience. They're both offering great value for money to consumers looking for either their first car or a replacement car. But when we talk about price, the Myvi starts from 41,000 ringgit all the way up to 52,000 ringgit, whereas the Ativa is much more expensive, starting from 61,000 ringgit to 72,000 ringgit. However, understand that the Ativa has much more advanced features as well as platform, engine, powertrain compared to the Myvi. Something that I find quite interesting is that if you compare over a course of 5 years or 100,000 kilometers, the Ativa is actually cheaper to maintain compared to the Myvi. Well, only slightly, about 400 ringgit. That is if you factor in your road tax, insurance and maintenance cost. The biggest difference here is due to the lower road tax, much lower road tax in the Ativa's 1 litre 3-cylinder turbo engine with an annual road tax of only 20 ringgit. Whereas the Myvi has an annual road tax of 90 ringgit, so that's the difference there. However, that only tells you half the story because you also have to factor in your fuel consumption cost as well as your tyre replacement cost. If you factor that in, the Ativa is slightly more expensive to maintain because the tyre size is larger, it's more expensive being an SUV tyre, and this is not as fuel efficient as the Myvi. In terms of boot space, the Ativa is much larger compared to the Myvi. The Myvi has a boot space rating of 277 litres, whereas the Ativa has a maximum of 369 litres if you have the false boot floor in its lowest position. Both cars also comes with a full-size spare wheel. Now, something that I noticed is that the load clip on the Myvi, it's a little bit lower compared to the Ativa, so if you're loading larger, heavier items, it's easier to put it into the Myvi compared to the Ativa. The cabin of the Ativa is much more of an occasion to be in compared to the Myvi. You know, you have your floating touchscreen, you have an LCD instrument cluster display, the multifunctional steering wheel is a new generation, much nicer to hold, much nicer to press the buttons. However, both cars share the same climate control panel, but overall, I feel that the cabin of the Ativa, it's much more modern, much more high-tech, and definitely a nicer place to be in compared to the Myvi. Another reason why I'll pick the cabin of the Ativa compared to the Myvi is because of the seat sculpture. In the Myvi, the seats design is just a bit too wide, you get flopped around quite a fair bit, whereas the Ativa, it's much better side support, much better back support, and you just have a more comfortable seating position. Surprisingly, the back seats of the Myvi is more spacious and comfortable compared to the Ativa. I have the front seat adjusted to my usual driving position. Check it out. Just about 3.5 tennis balls, about half a tennis balls more compared to the Ativa. And something that I quite appreciate inside the Myvi, the cabin of the Myvi, is that even though it's not as high-tech looking, not as fancy as the Ativa, but it has a lot of very practical, user-centric touches. For example, 2 teh tarik hooks right here, as well as 1 anti-snatch hook back, which is perfect for the ladies, as well as a built-in toll reader. The Ativa doesn't get the option for all of these items. Let's start off the drive in the Perodua Myvi. Immediately, you can tell that this is a rather dated product. It's definitely not as sophisticated, not as modern as the Ativa in terms of platform as well as powertrain technologies. The Myvi, powered by a 1.5 litre naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine paired to a 4-speed automatic. It develops 137 Newton meters of torque. That's a little bit lesser compared to the Ativa's turbo engine. But I'll be honest, the Myvi is a very honest type of product. It gets the job done. It enables mobility to a lot of people given at its price point. It's really the default car for first-time car buyers or somebody who's looking for an extra car, a daily roundabout. The Myvi is the default choice. It will definitely be on everybody's shopping list. The Myvi, honestly, it's a definitely will not go wrong kind of option. Pick a Myvi, you need a car, Myvi, no problems, you will have no complaints. And given the price difference of 10,000-20,000, is it worth it to step up to the Ativa? Stepping into the Ativa, immediately you feel that it's a more sophisticated, more composed ride quality, and the entire experience, the driving experience it gives you, miles better than it might be, that's for sure. It's a lot more premium, a lot more plush, a lot more, again I use the same word, sophisticated, and you feel it. Going over bumps, humps, a lot more composed, a lot more pliant. Steering is a lot sharper, and when you take corners on the highway at triple-digit speeds, the Ativa gives you a lot more confidence compared to the Myvi. And not only that, the powertrain, 1 litre turbo, despite having lesser horsepower at 98 horsepower, 140 Newton meters of torque, it's only a little bit more than the Myvi, but it's the instant response that it gets. Besides that, the Ativa, regardless of which variant that you choose, comes equipped with the more advanced ASA 3.0 with lane departure warning. And in this range-topping AV variant, yes, it's 20k more expensive compared to the range-topping Myvi, but you get a turbo engine, DNGA platform. Most importantly, adaptive cruise control. To some might seem that it's a little bit much, but I guess if you look at the Ativa on itself, it's very great value for money. The only car below 80,000 ringgit to offer these kind of safety features and in this kind of package. So in conclusion, while the Ativa is a far more superior product compared to the Myvi in terms of technologies and features, the Myvi will still be the default choice for those looking for a no-frills roundabout. It's much cheaper than the Ativa, still drives quite well, easy to maintain, and is able to do everything you need it to. So with that, the Myvi will still remain as king. Download the official WapCar app on Apple App Store and Google Play Store for all your latest reviews, news, and comparisons to help you find your next perfect car.